I'm 70. I don't masturbate anymore. Here's why. As someone who has reached the age of 70, life brings a unique perspective. I've experienced the highs and lows, navigated through the phases of physical and emotional changes, and come to understand the deeper truths about what truly brings fulfillment. One such area where my perspective has evolved is in the realm of self-intimacy, specifically masturbation. While it's a subject many shy away from discussing openly, I believe sharing my reasons for why I've chosen to stop could resonate with others in my age group, especially those who are looking to reflect on their own habits and choices. For those of us in our senior years, this topic isn't about judgment or shame, but rather understanding what aligns with our current needs, values, and well-being. Here are my thoughts and experiences laid out with honesty that have led to this decision. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. 1. A shift in priorities and energy. At 70, life feels both expansive and finite. Paradox that has brought a clarity I never fully grasped in my younger years. Time, once abundant and easily spent, now feels precious, a resource to be cherished and used with intention. This shift in perspective has touched every part of my life, including the habits and routines I've carried with me for decades. As I've grown older, I've come to realize that masturbation, once a familiar and unexamined part of my life, no longer aligns with how I want to spend my time, my energy, or even my attention. This isn't about rejection or denial. It's about growth, about understanding that what once served me no longer fits within the broader tapestry of who I've become. In my youth, masturbation was an outlet, a way to explore my body and manage the stresses of a busy life. It was private, uncomplicated, and often comforting. But as the years have passed, my relationship with my body and my desires has changed. Masturbation, while natural and even beneficial in earlier phases of life, began to feel more like a habit than a meaningful act. I started to ask myself, is this truly adding to my well-being? Is this the best way to spend my time and energy in this stage of life? The answer, for me, became increasingly clear. It wasn't. What shifted most profoundly is how I now prioritize connection and presence. The fleeting satisfaction of physical release no longer holds the same weight it once did, especially when compared to the deeper joys that come from meaningful relationships, creative pursuits, or moments of quiet reflection. I've learned to channel the energy that once went towards solitary indulgences into activities that enrich my life in lasting ways. A conversation with a friend, the act of nurturing a garden, or even sitting in stillness with a good book. These moments offer a kind of fulfillment that resonates far beyond the moment. This shift isn't about avoiding desire, but about choosing how to direct it. Desire, I've learned, isn't just physical. It's a force that drives us toward connection, creativity, and purpose. By stepping away from masturbation, I've found new ways to engage with that energy, redirecting it toward the things that truly matter to me now. It's not a loss, but a reimagining, a way to honor the person I've become and the life I want to lead. 2. Physical changes and health considerations. Aging brings with it undeniable changes to the body, many of which I never truly anticipated until I began living them. There was a time when my body responded with ease and vitality, when touch brought immediate comfort or pleasure, and when energy felt boundless. But with each passing decade, those sensations began to shift subtly at first and then more noticeably. At 70, I now understand that my physical self is no longer the same, and I've grown to embrace these changes with a sense of acceptance and grace. My decision to stop masturbating is deeply tied to these transformations and the recognition that my relationship with my body has evolved. Over the years, hormonal shifts have subtly but significantly changed my physical desires. It's not that I've lost the capacity for pleasure. The intensity has lessened. Sensations that once felt sharp and electrifying are now softer,
quieter, and sometimes elusive. This isn't a source of sadness for me, but rather a realization that the rhythms of my body have slowed, and that's okay. What I used to seek through physical release, I now find through gentler, more nourishing activities. A quiet walk in the sunshine or the feeling of my hands immersed in the soil of my garden can bring me a kind of peace that's deeply satisfying in a way that physical intimacy no longer is. Health has also become a more prominent factor in my decision. Over time, I've faced the small but persistent aches and pains that come with age, arthritis in my hands, occasional stiffness, and the slower recovery from exertion. These physical realities make me more conscious of how I treat my body. Where once I may have indulged in physical habits out of impulse or routine, I now approach my body with greater care and thoughtfulness. I've learned to listen to it, to respect its limits, and to focus on what feels truly nurturing. For many people my age, health challenges can alter the way we interact with our own bodies, whether it's mobility issues, circulatory concerns, or even the fatigue that comes with certain medications. These factors can change the way we approach self-care. In my case, I've found that what my body craves most now is rest and renewal, not stimulation. This doesn't feel like a loss to me, but a natural evolution, a shift toward prioritizing well-being over fleeting gratification.
3. Embracing emotional intimacy over physical release. If there's one thing I've come to understand in my later years, it's that emotional intimacy far outweighs physical release in terms of depth and meaning. In my youth, masturbation often served as a quick fix, a way to deal with stress, loneliness, or simply to escape the noise of daily life. It was convenient, private, and uncomplicated. But as I've aged, I've realized that these fleeting moments of release pale in comparison to the profound satisfaction that comes from genuine emotional connection. Over time, I've come to see masturbation as a solitary act that, while natural and even beneficial at certain stages of life, no longer aligns with my needs. At this point in my journey, I crave connection, not just with others, but with myself in a way that feels more intentional and meaningful. When I feel lonely, I no longer turn inward to seek physical comfort. Instead, I reach outward. A phone call to an old friend or a heartfelt chat with my partner provides the kind of connection that lingers long after the moment has passed. It's this kind of intimacy, rooted in trust, vulnerability, and shared experience, that brings me the greatest sense of fulfillment. Emotional intimacy isn't just about connecting with others, it's also about fostering a deeper relationship with myself. Through meditation and quiet reflection, I've learned to sit with my emotions rather than seek to soothe them through physical means. This practice has been transformative. It's taught me to embrace feelings of sadness or longing without rushing to resolve them. In doing so, I've developed a greater sense of resilience and inner peace. These moments of stillness have become a cornerstone of my well-being, offering a kind of solace that I never knew I needed. For me, this journey has also been about redefining what pleasure means. In my younger years, I equated pleasure with physical sensations, the kind that could be accessed quickly and without much thought. But now, I find joy in the subtler, quieter moments of life. There's immense pleasure in holding my grandchild's hand, in the warmth of a good cup of tea, or in the laughter shared during a Sunday dinner with family. These experiences remind me that pleasure doesn't have to be fleeting or solitary. It can be woven into the fabric of daily life in ways that are deeply enriching. This shift toward emotional intimacy has been one of the most rewarding aspects of aging for me. It's allowed me to let go of habits that no longer serve me and replace them with practices that nurture my soul. By focusing on connection, both with myself and others, I've found a sense of purpose and contentment that I didn't fully appreciate in my younger years. As I reflect on these changes, I feel grateful for the wisdom that comes with age. Life at 70 is about embracing the transformations that naturally occur and finding new ways to experience joy and fulfillment. My decision to stop masturbating isn't about denial or judgment. It's about recognizing that the things that once served me no longer do. And in their place, I've discovered a world of deeper, more meaningful connections. Connections that remind me of the beauty and richness of this stage of life. 4. Spiritual growth and perspective. Reaching my 70s has opened up a chapter of life that feels, in many ways, more spiritual than any that came before. There's something about the passage of time that deepens our awareness of life's fleeting nature, of its fragility, and its beauty. In this phase, I find myself drawn to the intangible, the moments of stillness, gratitude, and connection to something larger than myself. This shift has profoundly shaped my relationship with my body and with the practices I engage in, including the decision to step away from masturbation. For much of my life, I saw my body as a source of pleasure, a tool for navigating the world, and an anchor to the physical realm. But as I've aged, my perspective has evolved. I now see my body as a vessel, something to be cared for, respected, and cherished, but also as something temporary. This awareness has changed the way I approach self-care. Instead of seeking immediate gratification or physical pleasure, I'm more focused on practices that nurture my spirit. Prayer, meditation, and mindfulness have become central to my life. They provide a sense of peace and fulfillment that feels much deeper and more lasting than any physical sensation could offer. Masturbation, for all its naturalness and benefits in earlier stages of life, now feels out of step with my current priorities. It's not about shame or moral judgment. It's simply that my focus has shifted. My spiritual journey has brought me a sense of clarity and alignment that I didn't fully grasp in my younger years. Engaging in practices that quiet the mind and open the heart has become far more rewarding. I find myself drawn to the stillness of a quiet morning, the beauty of a sunset, or the simple act of breathing deeply and being present in the moment. These experiences remind me of the vastness of life and the interconnectedness of everything. Letting go of masturbation has also allowed me to approach intimacy, both with myself and others, in a new way. It's no longer about physical release, but about cultivating a sense of wholeness. There's a spiritual element to this, a feeling that I am more than just my body and its desires. By stepping away from habits that tether me to the physical realm, I've felt a greater sense of freedom and expansion. It's as if I've made room for something more profound, something that feeds my soul rather than just my senses. This spiritual perspective isn't tied to any particular religion or doctrine. It's a deeply personal journey. It's about seeking meaning, finding peace, and connecting with the essence of life itself. For me, this journey has brought a sense of joy and contentment that I never imagined possible. It's a reminder that as we age, we have the opportunity to grow not just in wisdom, but in spirit, embracing a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. 5. The joy of letting go. One of the greatest lessons I've learned in my 70s is the profound joy that comes from letting go. This phase of life is often marked by a process of release, letting go of possessions, expectations, relationships that no longer serve us, and even habits that once felt essential. For me, stepping away from masturbation has been part of this broader journey, a conscious choice to simplify my life and focus on what truly matters. Letting go isn't always easy. It requires us to confront our attachments, to ask ourselves why we hold on to certain things, and to trust that releasing them will create space for something better. In my case, masturbation was never an obsession or a burden, but it was a habit, a pattern of behavior that I carried with me for decades without questioning. As I grew older, I began to see it as something that no longer aligned with the person I was becoming. Letting it go felt like shedding a layer of my old self, making room for a lighter, freer version of me. What surprised me most about this process was the sense of liberation it brought. By letting go of this habit, I discovered a newfound clarity and focus. My energy felt more centered, my mind more at peace. I no longer felt tied to routines that didn't serve a deeper purpose. Instead, I found myself more present in the moment, more attuned to the simple pleasures of life: a morning cup of coffee, the laughter of my grandchildren, the feeling of the sun on my face. This act of letting go has also taught me an important truth. We are not defined by our habits. As we age, we have the opportunity to redefine ourselves, to choose what we carry forward and what we leave behind. For me, this has been a process of aligning my actions with my values, of focusing on what brings me joy and fulfillment rather than what feels familiar or routine. It's about living intentionally, making choices that reflect the person I want to be. The joy of letting go isn't just about releasing the past, it's about embracing the present. It's about recognizing that we don't need to cling to every aspect of who we were in order to honor our journey. By letting go, we make space for growth, for discovery, and for the kind of contentment that comes from living authentically. At 70, I feel a deep sense of gratitude for this process. It's taught me that life isn't about holding on to everything, but about knowing what to release. It's about trusting that in letting go, we're not losing anything. We're simply making room for what truly matters. This isn't just a lesson about masturbation or any single habit. It's a lesson about life itself, about finding the courage to embrace change and the wisdom to know when to let go. 6. Cultural and generational perspectives. Growing up in the mid 20th century, I experienced a culture shaped by values that now feel like whispers from another world. Back then, topics like sex, intimacy, and especially masturbation were rarely discussed, cloaked in silence or awkward avoidance. It wasn't just my family or my community, it was the tenor of the times. Discussions about private acts were considered taboo, reserved for hushed tones, or not at all. And while society has evolved dramatically since those years, I've found that those early cultural imprints still linger within me, shaping how I see myself, my body, and my choices, even at 70. This isn't about shame or repression. On the contrary, I see the values of moderation and privacy that I was raised with as formative, shaping my understanding of boundaries and respect, both for myself and others. However, I've also had to unlearn certain attitudes over the years, replacing outdated beliefs with a more compassionate, open understanding of intimacy and self-care. Even as those early lessons have softened, the cultural context of my youth has left a lasting imprint on how I navigate these topics, and that's something I've come to accept as part of who I am. When I think about masturbation, I don't view it as good or bad, but I do see it as deeply personal, an act influenced not only by our individual needs, but also by the cultural lens through which we've grown up. For someone like me, raised in a time when personal desires were seldom openly discussed, there's a certain sense of restraint that comes naturally. It's not a denial of pleasure, but a reflection of how I've come to prioritize other parts of life: connection, spirituality, and the quiet joys of presence. This cultural backdrop has shaped my relationship with my body, my habits, and my view of what truly matters as I grow older. Letting go of masturbation at this stage of life feels, in part, like a return to those early values, a quiet, reflective approach to the physical self. It feels like a way to honor the idea of moderation that was so deeply ingrained in me while balancing it with the emotional and spiritual wisdom I've gained through the years. It's not about adhering to outdated notions, but about finding harmony between the values of my past and the realities of who I am today. In this way, my decision to stop masturbating feels less like a restriction and more like a natural evolution, one influenced by both personal growth and the cultural threads that have shaped me. 7. Encouraging open dialogue.
One of the most surprising aspects of aging is the courage it brings. At 70, I feel a freedom to speak openly about things I might have avoided discussing in earlier years. There's a clarity that comes with age, a sense that the judgments of others matter far less than the opportunity to connect, to share, and to learn from one another. This openness is what inspired me to reflect on my decision to stop masturbating, not as a way to impose my choices on others, but as an invitation to dialogue, to explore a topic that many still shy away from discussing. For much of my life, I believed that topics like this were best kept private. It wasn't just a personal belief, it was a reflection of the culture I grew up in where modesty and discretion were valued. But as I've aged, I've come to see the power of honest conversation, particularly about subjects that touch on intimacy, aging, and the way our relationships with our bodies change over time. These are universal experiences, yet so often we navigate them in isolation, believing that our struggles or choices are ours alone. By sharing my story, I hope to challenge that sense of isolation. My decision to stop masturbating is just one aspect of a much larger journey. A journey of understanding myself, letting go of what no longer serves me, and embracing the changes that come with aging. It's a deeply personal choice, one that may resonate with some and not with others. And that's okay. What matters most is that we create space for these conversations, space to explore what feels right for each of us without fear of judgment or shame. For many of us in our later years, there's a temptation to stay silent about these topics, to assume that no one else is grappling with similar thoughts or decisions. But the truth is, we all face changes, physical, emotional, and spiritual, as we age. These changes are worth talking about, not just for our own understanding, but to help others feel less alone. By opening up about my own experiences, I hope to encourage others to reflect on their own habits, priorities, and the ways in which they engage with themselves and the world around them. This isn't about advocating for one path or another. Whether someone chooses to continue masturbating or not is entirely personal, shaped by their own needs, values, and circumstances. My story is simply one perspective, one voice in a larger conversation about how we navigate the complexities of aging and intimacy. What I've learned is that there's power in vulnerability, in admitting that we're all figuring it out as we go. It's in this openness that we find connection, understanding, and maybe even a bit of peace. As I reflect on this journey, I feel a profound sense of gratitude for the lessons I've learned along the way. Life at 70 is full of challenges and joys, of letting go and embracing new beginnings. My choice to stop masturbating is just one small piece of this larger puzzle, a decision rooted in the values, reflections, and experiences that have shaped me. By sharing this piece of my story, I hope to spark conversations that bring us closer together, reminding us all that we're not alone on this path. 8. Finding fulfillment in new ways. As I've grown older, I've discovered that fulfillment takes on a different shape, more expansive, more textured, and certainly more meaningful than I ever imagined in my younger years. At 70, my life no longer revolves around the fleeting pleasures or impulses that once seemed so essential. Instead, I've found myself drawn to quieter, richer experiences, the kind that leave a deeper imprint on the soul. This shift has been gradual, but transformative, redefining how I approach joy, connection, and even myself. When I stopped masturbating, it wasn't about denying myself pleasure. It was about creating space for something more profound. I began to notice how moments of stillness held treasures I had previously overlooked. Sitting in my garden as the sun dips below the horizon, I feel a calm that resonates in ways physical release never could. In the laughter of my grandchildren or the quiet strength of my partner's presence, I've found a warmth and a joy that lingers far beyond the moment. These experiences aren't just fulfilling, they're life-affirming. The beauty of finding fulfillment in new ways is that it often surprises you. Hobbies I never had time for in my younger years, painting, reading for hours, writing letters to old friends, have become sources of immense joy. Volunteering has brought me a sense of purpose I didn't realize I was missing. Even the simple act of learning something new, like trying my hand at baking or picking up a new language, fills my days with a sense of accomplishment and wonder. What I've come to understand is that fulfillment isn't about the intensity of the experience, but the depth. Masturbation, while a natural and often positive act, offered only fleeting satisfaction. The activities I now devote myself to, whether creative, social, or reflective, bring a sense of meaning that grows over time. They connect me to others, to the world around me, and to myself in ways that are enduring and transformative. Letting go of old habits and embracing new sources of fulfillment has also taught me an important lesson about presence. There's a richness to living fully in each moment, to savoring the texture of life rather than rushing through it. This awareness didn't come easily or quickly. It's something I've cultivated over years of reflection and experience. And it's in this mindfulness that I've found the truest sense of joy.
Final thoughts. It's about what feels right for you. At the end of the day, the decision to masturbate or not comes down to personal choice. For me, stepping away from this habit has been part of a broader journey of self discovery and growth. It's not about denying pleasure, but about aligning my actions with what feels right for me at this stage of life. If you're reading this and feeling curious or contemplative, I encourage you to take the time to reflect on your own habits. Whether you choose to continue or not, know that there's no right or wrong answer, only what's right for you. Life after 70 is about embracing the freedom to live authentically, whatever that may look like. These lessons are meant to inspire you to live fully and authentically. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Take a moment to reflect and share one thing you've learned and plan to apply in your own life. Let's support each other on this journey toward embracing these truths. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment with 1. If not, feel free to comment with 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and here's to living life on your own terms.